Hello everyone, welcome back on our YouTube channel Vans Vlog. As you know that in the previous video we have started topic number 10 and we have covered 30 questions. So today this will be the last video for topic number 10 and we will cover 28 more questions, then we are done. If you are new on our channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel, like our videos, and don't forget to go to the playlist section of our YouTube. There you can find the playlist for Einbürgerung test as well, and for the German driving license theory as well. As we are just completing this video series. If you have any feedback or any comment or any remarks on our video series or whatsoever, you can write us an email as well or put it in the comment section. So let's start for today. The first question for today, or question number 31 in total, is the time on a parking meter has not yet run out. What do you do? Like maybe you have like printed a parking ticket from the parking machine, let's say here, and then the time is not finished yet. So ideally you can actually keep parking. For example, if you have taken out a ticket for 2 hours and it's like 1.5 hours have passed, then you still have 30 minutes left. You can still keep your car over there in the parking area. So you may only use the time left on the meter when using parking disk. No, parking disk has nothing to take with the time left, because parking disk is sometime, like in the previous questions we have seen that parking disk is mandatory sometime when it is indicated by sign, or let's say your ticket machine or parking ticket machine is not working. Then in that cases you have to use the parking disk. But it has nothing to take, like the only time left on the meter when using a parking disk you can use that time. No, if the parking ticket machine is working properly, then it is nothing to take with the parking disk at all. The time, like for example, you put some coins in the ticket machine, you took out a ticket and it says at 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. You have 2 hours, you have paid for 2 hours, then this parking ticket is valid till 3 p.m. let's say, and then you will put it on the inside of your windscreen in your car on the front side for sure, and then like it will be visible that you are allowed here to park for 2 hours. And parking this is sometime necessary if you do not know that if the parking ticket machine is not working, then how you will come to know, how will somebody or some institute will come to know that you have, when you have parked here. So for that purpose you take this parking disk with you, which you can find in a supermarket anywhere, and you set the time. Let's say you park your car at 6 p.m. then till 8 p.m. if you kept parking, then you will take out your car and then you have to pay money somewhere if the machine is not working. So it is the purpose of parking disk. But if from the parking meter you have printed out you have taken out a ticket against your money, you have insert some coins, let's say, or some money, then you are allowed to keep your car parked in that area till the time is not run out. So this option is not correct. You may not use the time left on the meter. No, it is your right. You can use that time until it is not ran out. Use the time left on the meter without inserting more money. If you have already like put in the money for 2 hours, you have already paid for 2 hours, and if there is still half an hour left on your parking time, then you can kept it in your parking in the parking area. No problem at all. So only third option is correct. Let's move to the next question. At 10:40, you enter an area where parking is allowed for 2 hours when using a parking disk. What time must you set on the parking disk? Let's say in that area parking disk is compulsory, and this is a parking disk. You have parking disk with you. You enter that area at 10:40 and parking is allowed for 2 hours only. So what does it mean? Like what time you should set on the parking disk? Let's say you entered at 10:40, then like you parked some car. What is the time which is the next possible time? It's 12:40. No, it's too late. You entered at 10:40. Ideally you should set, as the common sense says, at 11. So it's the perfect time, like it is very near. Let's say you took around 10 minutes to park your car, some other stuff, then 11 is fine. 12:40 is too late. You entered at 10:40. Even this 1 or 30 Daizunwa is also too late. What is the nearest time to this 10:40 a.m. or 10:40 p.m.? It's 11. So you will set your disk over here, as I have seen you all, as I have uh, uh, where it is here. So here it is. Like you will set it to 11 a.m. Let's say I have shown it to you already. So 11 is perfect time. Let's go to the next question. You want to park in a car park where there is a parking ticket machine. So now the parking ticket machine is there and you want to park. What must you remember? What must you remember? You have to, like, the basic point, just insert the money, take out the ticket and put it on your front screen. So place a valid parking ticket in your vehicle, so it is easy to read from outside for sure. Like, this is the like your car, like let's say it is your car, and just put your parking ticket like parking ticket here, so that if somebody come to know to check that how long have you parked here, they will come to know at this time you started. So place a valid parking ticket in your vehicle. A parking ticket is never needed when using a parking disc. I told you parking disc has nothing to take with parking ticket everywhere. Sometime when parking ticket machine is not working, then sometime you use parking disc. But anyhow, parking ticket is the main thing. Then comes the priority. If parking ticket is not available because of any reason, then you should use the parking disc. So anyhow, parking ticket is never needed when using a parking disc is not a correct option. Do not exceed the parking time indicated on parking ticket. As I told you, if you have parked for 2 hours, you have paid for 2 hours, then you should not exceed that time. So these two options are correct. Let's move to the next question. Next question is, for what purposes are you allowed to stop at parking meters which are out of order? So parking meters are out of order, they are not working. If you want to stop here, not park, you want to stop here, so which are out of order, like for what purposes can you stop? As I told you, for boarding or alighting, in the previous videos we have discussed it a lot. For loading and unloading, it is considered to be like you can stop over there for 3 minutes for boarding or alighting, for loading or unloading. But if you went for shopping, then it is considered to be as parked. Whenever you have left your car, you have locked your door, your engine is switched off, that means you are parked, you are not stopped. So if you want to stop at parking meter which are not working, out of order, you are only allowed to stop over there. As we know, the standard criteria for stopping could be boarding or alighting, or then even loading or unloading, but not shopping. Shopping is considered to be as parked. So our next question is, when operating a vehicle, what must you observe regarding the vehicle height? So whenever you are like using a vehicle, the main things about your vehicle should be, you should know from the manufacturer guideline like how high your car is. Maybe in some, like some underground parking, let's say, or in some areas when you are going to enter, the maximum height, let's say, is allowed over there. Let's say we suppose it is around like 3 meter, but your car, let's say, is 3.5 meter high, then you cannot enter. So when operating your vehicle, what must you observe regarding the vehicle height? I have to ascertain the actual height of load protruding beyond the external bodywork of the vehicle. Like for example, your actual height is fine. Let's say your actual height is 3 meter and allowed to go inside some area is also 3 meter, but maybe you have put some load on your vehicle and let's say of 50 centimeter. So your in total height is actual height is now 3.5 meter. That's why you should be very sure about the actual height along with the load as well. Sometimes observe the restraint applicable to the actual height. Like see, either I am allowed to go with my car with the actual height of my car, either I am allowed to enter this area. If it is particularly mentioned, only cars, let's say with 2 meter, let's say, or 4 meter are allowed in this area. Just to be very sure, you should know that how high my car is, what is the actual height of my car. Observe the restraints. If there are some restrictions, follow them. Ascertain the actual height of the vehicle for sure. You have to be very sure about the actual height of the vehicle, and sometime actual height along with the load which is protruding beyond your external bodywork, upward or left or right. Maybe there could be many things. You should consider all of them. So our next question is, what must you be prepared for here? So you see, they are showing it's a parking area. So people actually have like many people have parked here as well. So people can come on the roadway for sure. It's a parking area. Maybe they will come on the roadway to cross this road. Like you should keep in mind, although it is not allowed, but maybe. Number 2, the oncoming vehicle for sure. Oncoming vehicle can appear. And what rest, let's say, what happens here? What must you be prepared for here? Oncoming vehicle turning left for sure, like vehicle coming from here and going into the parking area, turning left, or even changing their lane to overtake. Everything is possible. Vehicle turning onto the road. Yes, these vehicles which are parked maybe will come out onto the roadway. Like you need to be very careful while driving. Just keep your speed slow. people walking on the road, as I told you, as this sign is indicating. Like it's a parking area and people can walk on the roadway. It's possible. It's like so that's why you need to be careful about this factor as well. Our next question: what is a frequent cause of serious accidents? So like there are many causes for serious accident. Let's say failure to adjust your speed accordingly. Like maybe you have seen some traffic restriction or speed restriction, but you have not adjusted your speed according to that like that specific speed on that road. If you do not adjust your speed in good time, maybe you can hit the car in front of you. This could be a problem. Failure to pay attention to other road traffic. If you are not that like if you have not opened your eyes properly, and you are not that like you are not thinking about the another traffic other traffic on the roadway, about other participants, about their mistakes, you are not paying attention at all to them, then if this failure could lead to some serious accident as well. So you should be like, you should anticipate the mistakes of other as well, be ready for that. Driving too close to vehicle in front can also lead to a serious accident. If that vehicle immediate brakeley, if there is not a sufficient or the good safety distance, you can hit that car. So that's why the safety distance is always important. So all three factors could lead to actually serious accidents. You stop to allow passengers to exit your vehicle on the right hand side. A cyclist path runs along there. What should you do? So like you are letting a passenger out from your vehicle to the right hand side. As we know, normally on the right hand side, I will try to give you an example from here. If we can see, as you know that I cannot exactly see the picture, but maybe somewhere here we can, let's say we see here. This example could be good. For example, you are in the car and you are letting this passenger out of your car, and alongside this road there is a like cycle mark area, like a dedicated path for cyclists. So what should you tell your the person who is leaving the car? Just tell him before opening the door, be sure there is no cyclist on the roadway. Otherwise, while opening the door, you can hit the cyclist. This is the important thing. What are the other points? I should point out the cycle path to the person exiting. As I told you, just tell the person exiting. Just be very careful about the cyclist. Like maybe you are leaving the vehicle on the right hand side. So just to be sure, because always on the right hand side we have the path for cyclists or pedestrians, just tell that passenger, be very careful when you are going out from the car. I should make sure that no cyclists are approaching. Very important. Along with your fellow passenger, you should personally be very sure that there is no cyclist approaching from your right hand side. I should observe the traffic using a rear view mirror only. No, this we have seen many times. You should not observe traffic only from the rear view mirror. You should always do the shoulder blink. Turn your head, because some cyclist, some pedestrian could be in your blind spot, and your fellow passenger open the door and hit him or her. So you should not observe the traffic only using the rear view mirror only. This option is incorrect. You should also support this rear view mirror alongside with your we call it shoulder blink. Our next question is, how must you safeguard your vehicle? How must you safeguard your vehicle against theft? Simple, we know it. Just lock down your doors and every part of the car, your back of the car, everything by locking the doors and boot. Boot, we know this the back part of the car. I think this we know, we already put our stuff this back side of the car. So by locking it for sure, by removing the ignition key, engaging the steering wheel lock and close the windows. Like take out your ignition key, your key of the car, and like lock your steering wheel and close the window. Simply, like then nobody can can intrude into your car, can like let's say steal something from your car. So you have to safeguard your car against the theft. That's why you have to be very sure, close all the windows, like your engine is closed, your everything, like you have used everything. By activating the differential lock, look, differential lock is a different thing. We are not like discussing so much like technical stuff here, but this those who are from automotive field, they already know that this differential lock actually is related to the main shaft, your common shaft of the front axle of your car. It is to the technical term. It is not like safeguard against the theft, but actually when you activate your differential lock, sometime the front axle of your car, on which your right side wheel and the front wheels, the right wheel and the left wheel of the front side, they are normally linked with the differential lock, this common shaft concept on which your car starts, and like the main shaft which is like controlling the rear and front axles, it has to take with the differential lock. Nothing to take at all with the safeguarding of your vehicle. It's a technical term, just forget this differential lock. Just lock your doors, take out your ignition key, close the windows, simple. Differential lock is total technical term. We do not need to think about it. Let's go to the next question. What must you do when leaving your car? So you are leaving your car, what should you do? I think it's a common sense. We should like switch off the ignition key, we should take out our key, lock the steering wheel, close the windows, lock the doors. So secure the wheel against unauthorized use for sure. Very sureful, you should be very sure that nobody is using your car. If you are not there, nobody should able to open your car and use your car for some illegal work or unauthorized use. Before opening the door, look out for traffic behind. Very important, this we have already discussed a few questions back. It's very important when you are leaving your car, just do a shoulder blink. Either you are a passenger, either you are a driver. Just take a look at your traffic side. If you are on this side of the road, left side, then traffic. And if you are leaving your car at the right hand side, just be very sure about the cyclist and pedestrians. So before opening the door, look out for the traffic behind. Secure the vehicle. If you are like on somehow you have stopped your car at some slope, just secure the vehicle against rolling away, maybe by putting some chocks under your wheels or something whatsoever, maybe applying some this hand brake or parking brake. So any way you can think about securing your vehicle against the rolling away. So let's move to the next question. Your car is standing on the edge of the roadway. What should you do when getting into the car? So I will again take this example. Let's say your car is at this edge of the roadway, let's say. So what should you do when getting into the car? Letting passenger get into the car if possible from the pavement. Like if it is possible, it is highly recommended let the passengers in from this side pavement area, not from the main road where traffic flow is there. Like it's only recommended, you should try to follow it. Let passenger get in the car if possible from the pavement. Open the door on the roadway side only when traffic permits. Like this is the roadway side and this is the pavement side. So roadway side where the cars or other vehicle can come. So if you are like, if you have to enter for sure, if you are driver, you have to enter from here. In that case, just to be very sure, you open the door only and only when traffic permits. Otherwise maybe you can create a blockage for a traffic, even some car can hit your door. So be very careful. When there is no traffic, then enter from this side of the road. The doors on the right hand side can always be open without danger. No, as I told you, these roads or this side of the road particularly is dedicated for the pedestrians, for cyclists. It is not that you can always enter from that side without danger. Sometimes danger is there, so you should be very careful. Just turn your head and be very careful about the cyclists and pedestrians. Next question is, what is important when children are getting in and out of a car? What is important? Let the children in or out if possible on the pavement side for sure, because you know about the kids, your children, maybe they come out of the car and run directly away on the roadway. So this could be really dangerous situation. So ideally, if it's possible, just try to take the kid out from this pavement side, which is a bit safer. Children are not allowed to get in or out of a car on public roads. No. For example, if you have stopped your car on a public road and there is no way to come out from the pavement, so children will never come out of the car. It is actually, children are allowed to get in or out of the car on public roads, but under the supervision for sure of some senior or their parents or their relatives or whatsoever. But it is not the correct option that children are not allowed to get in or out of the car on public roads. Let the children in or out on the roadway side only under supervision. Yes, if it is not possible for them from the pavement side, and it is necessary to let them in from the traffic side, which is the roadway side, then just do it under your supervision. When they have when they have already they are already in the car, then put their seat belts, and then that's fine. So if it is necessary to put them in from the roadway side, get them in through the roadway side, then do it under your supervision. So these two options are correct. Let's go to the next question. What should you call the attention of your passenger before exiting? Like, what should you call this? We have seen, if some passenger is letting your car is letting out from your car, is going out from your car, what should you call him as his attention? Cyclists on the are required to wait on cyclist path? No, Cyclists have the priority on their paths. If somebody is getting out from the car, he or she needs to be very careful. When the cyclist has already left that area, then come out of the car. Cyclists will not wait, they have the priority. You should call the attention of your passenger. They should heed the traffic flowing on the left side. Like if they are coming out from the left side, flow like on the roadway side, then they should be very careful. There is no traffic, then open the door and come out. They should hit the pedestrian walking on. If they are coming out on the right hand side, they should be very careful about the pedestrian and cyclist for sure, if there are two paths. So these two options are correct. Let's go to the next question. How do you secure a car with a manual gearbox against rolling away on a downhill slope? So if your car is manual, let's say, and you want to secure your car against rolling away on a downhill slope, the slope is going downhill. So how do you secure? Engage first gear or reverse gear for sure. Like either you, like if you want to secure your car, it should not roll away. You should not put it in the high gear so that it will like it's getting the high speed or RPMs. You should either engage the first gear or the reverse gear. Simple. Apply the parking brake as well if it helps. This handbrake, the parking brake, just pull it so that sometime it really helps against rolling away. Put the gear in lever in neutral. No, actually, neutral position is different thing. Neutral position you will sometime find in the automatic gearbox or the automatic transmission of the cars, but this neutral gear is not made to to roll away from the to avoid from rolling away from a downhill slope. It's a different kind of thing. You don't need to be like, you will ideally, you will never put your car in the gear in these cases in a neutral gear. Either the reverse gear or the parking brakes you should apply. This neutral, just forget this neutral brake. It's in neutral position. It's nothing to take with this rolling away. Let's go to the next question. How do you secure a car with automatic transmission? Now the automatic transmission against rolling away on a downhill slope. So put the selector in the N or the neutral. As I told you, this N or neutral position has nothing to take with the downhill slope or to avoid from rolling away. This option is not correct. Similarly for the manual, and in the same way for automatic. Put the selected level in the P, parking position, or apply the parking brake. In this condition, actually, as we know, in the automatic transmission we don't have the first gear normally. So either we have the reverse gear, we have the few gears, we have drive and neutral, park and reverse. So applying the parking brake and put your car in the P position, it's parked. In this way you can secure your car against rolling away in case of automatic transmission. Let's go to the next question. What is the maximum number of trailers allowed to be towed by a class B truck? Like this we are doing Führerschein Klasse B. As we know that we are allowed maximum 3,5 ton or 3,500 kilogram till this weight, which is one trailer. If you go beyond one trailer, then you need this Führerschein Klasse BA or BE sometime, which allows I think till 7.5 ton if I am correct. But anyhow, with your Führerschein Class B, you are only allowed to tow only one trailer, which is one trailer only. Just remember this, it's very simple. So that you cannot exceed the maximum allowed weight, which is 3.5 ton. A video question. So you are traveling on a roadway, and then you see you are indicating left, I guess because of this bus, to make a way clear. In the rear view mirror, a cyclist is coming. If you can see, a pedestrian is there, motorcyclist is coming. So if you see, you have decided to go on the right hand side. Just remember, whenever you are parking or whenever you are stopping your car for some time, don't forget on the right hand side, don't forget to indicate to right. And when you decide to merge into the road again, don't forget to indicate to left. Very important. Whenever you are stopping your car, let's say to the right side for sure for some time, or maybe for any purpose, for parking purpose, let's say, just indicate right. And whenever you are starting your car, you are willing to merge on the roadway, indicate left, so the traffic coming from behind, they come to know that you will come on the roadway. So in this condition, if you see, the cyclist is coming from the rear view mirror, we actually made a way for the bus. Now bus has already passed us. So the cyclist is coming from we can see in the rear view mirror, and the motorcycle is from the opposite direction, if you see. And the pedestrian, cyclist, if you see, is in the blind spot right now. As I told you, there is pedestrian as well, the motorcyclist as well, but currently we could have an issue with the cyclist. If you see, cyclist was in our rear view, and now in the side view mirror as well. If we turn left immediately, who is in really dangerous position? The cyclist. We will directly hit the cyclist for sure. So what they are asking, why may you not exit now? Because of motorbike? No, motorbike is on the different opposite direction. Even if we take the turn out, merge on the roadway, we will not hit the motorcyclist. He is far away from us. Even the pedestrian is on a different route. We are taking turn left, and pedestrian is on our right hand side. We have no issue with pedestrian as well. The problem is because of the cyclist. If we take the turn immediately right now, if we exit from this path, then we will hit the cyclist. So because of cyclist, we need to be very careful. Let's move to the next question. What do you do in case of breakdown in a tunnel? So whenever your car is broken down in a tunnel, what you do? Let the engine run by way of precaution? No, you have to, when your car your car is broken down, never let the engine run. Just simply switch off your engine. If possible, park the vehicle in emergency bay. Normally we have a kind of emergency base where we can, like a small area where you can park your car or take your car if it is broken. Switch on the hazard warning lights, that is for sure. Like whenever you have traffic jam or some kind of accident, just switch on the hazard warning lights, so that the cars behind you or the traffic behind you actually can see that there is something happening, so that they will brake in time and everything will be fine. That's why hazard warning lights are important whenever traffic jam or some accident happens. So at what distance must the warning triangle be placed when a car has broken down on a road with fast moving traffic? Now we are going to learn a very important concept. Whenever your car is broken down on a very fast moving area, let's say on a Kraftstrasse or a Autobahn or Bundesstrasse with 100 km per hour, 80 km per hour speed or 70, then there are some important points you need to keep in mind. First of all, you should have this red triangle in your car. You have to put it at 100-meter distance from your car, so that the traffic coming from the far, they will come to know, as soon as they see this traffic sign, this red triangle, they will come to know, the car is broken. Maybe sometime in the night they couldn't see your car because of the color of the car, let's say, and it is too dark. Then even this triangle will shine red color. They will come to know a car is broken down, so they will slow down your speed. Number one. Number two, you have to wear this kind of, you can say, jacket or waistcoat, whatsoever it is. It's a yellow or orange in some cases. You should also keep it in your car. For example, if your car is for 5 passengers, as per the rule you should have minimum 3 to 4, or if possible 5 in total. They highly recommend you should have 5 waistcoats or this kind of in your car. If your car is broken down and it's a fast moving road, so that otherwise maybe the car will come very close and will hit your car, which is already broken down, and could lead to a second accident or a serious accident. So there are some precautions. This red triangle and this good color of yellow or orange, let's say, the waistcoat. So at what distance, just remember it. Like we have noted down a lot of distances in this topic, but again a more distance, 100-meter ahead you have to put this 100-meter before your car. Like let's say if your car is broken down here, then I think 100-meter will be, let's say, somewhere here. So you have to put your put your triangle at 100-meter distance from your broken down car. Let's go to the next question. At night, how must you secure a vehicle which has broken down at a place where it constitute a danger to the other traffic? Simple, as I told you, it's the night time and your car is broken down. Maybe the traffic cannot see your car. So how can you secure your vehicle? Immediately switch on hazard warning lights for sure. One of the main points. Place a warning triangle at a sufficient distance of 100-meter, as you already know. This is a correct. So no, reversing light has nothing to take with the broken down. Normally it is switched on when we reverse our car. It has nothing to take with your broken down car. So hazard warning lights, red triangle, and that light color jacket you have to wear. These are the very important point in case of broken down car. When must you switch on hazard warning lights? This we know. When your vehicle has broken down at a place where it cannot readily be recognized as a stationary obstruction. Whenever your car is broken down, you have to switch on the hazard warning lights, and then if traffic jam is there as well. When double parking, no. How can I show you? If I could show you double parking, actually it is not in Germany, it is not allowed. Let's say your car is parked on the roadway, this car here, and you come with your car inside a residential area and you place the car parallel to this car. Double parking it is called. It is not allowed in Germany, and even you do not need to switch on hazard warning lights whenever you are doing a parking. You only need to indicate to right. For loading and unloading, no, you are never allowed to switch on hazard warning lights except two cases or three cases. Let's say if your car is broken down, or you are in some hazard warning situation, or if there is a traffic jam in front of you, only to inform the traffic behind you. In all other cases, you cannot switch on the hazard warning lights. Our next question is, your car suffers a flat tire on the motorway. So like your car is punctured, what should you do? I have to place the warning triangle for sure at a distance of 100 meter. Your car is broken down, there is some issue with your car, so just put it on side, and then like put this triangle 100 meter. Turn on hazard lights and park as far to the right as possible for sure, so that you should not create a blocking for the flow of the traffic, and hazard warning light you have to turn on. Continue driving to the next exit. No, it is very dangerous situation even on any other roadway, but even it's like now it's a motorway, so you cannot carry on your journey. Your tire is flat, it's punctured, your car can skid, can go out of your control because of this punctured tire. So simply place it on right, switch on hazard warning light, put the triangle, and call the car service, or if you have some membership from some company, then you can simply call them. Let's go to the next question. You experience a breakdown car outside a build-up area. Your motor vehicle is located on the carriageway behind a bend in the road. What is the right course of action in this situation? So like your car is broken down outside build-up area, and now your vehicle is located on the carriageway behind a bend in the roadway. Like there is a bend in the roadway, and your car, let's say here is the bend, and your car, let's say, is broken down here, and let's say there is some oncoming traffic. Then what should you do? You have to take some basic steps, otherwise the oncoming traffic cannot see you and will hit the car. So I must at least position a conspicuous warning sign behind the vehicle for sure. This 100-meter sign you have to place. I should wear a high visibility vest, this we already know, yellow or orange. I have to turn on my hazard lights. These all three options are correct, as we have discussed it a lot in previous questions. A car with power steering has broken down with engine damage and must be towed away. So you have power steering. I think I will not go in that technical detail, but power steering, like in the cars like 20 or 30 years ago, we have to steer everything by our own, but now we have a very good power steering control. We have some motors attached with our steering control, and some advanced technology to help us to steer in a good manner. Like our steering could automatically come back to the original position when we leave it. So many things, it is called power steering. So they are telling a car with power steering has broken down with engine damage, and engine is damaged and must be towed away. So like it cannot carry on the journey, so there will be some car who will tow your car. Like there is a car which is towing your car with this rope. What is correct? The steering of the broken down car is locked. No, actually it is never locked. When this power steering, like what the good thing is about the power steering, now we have almost in every car this power steering. Actually they are not locked. Even your engine is damaged, they are still not locked. And like they are, anyhow you can steer them. They are a bit heavy, you have to put more power, but they will never lock. Is not impaired. Like they are telling, they are not impaired at all, they are 100% fine. It is also not correct. It is the other extreme case. Like your engine is damaged, and they are saying that steering of your broken down car is not impaired. It is 100% okay. No, it has affected. It is considerably heavier, but it is not correct. Either it is locked or either it is not impaired, it is 100% fine. No, it becomes a bit heavier. Only third option is correct. Let's go to the next question. What must you remember when towing? So whenever you are towing something, so what must you remember? There are some important points. You both of the car, if possible, you have to, like it's mandatory actually, you have to switch on your hazard warning lights. Number one, both of the cars. Number two, the distance between you and the car which you are towing should not be greater than 5 meter. Number two. Number three, you sometime this rope is not visible to the other traffic, maybe because of the color. That's why you have to put this extra sign or extra indication in between, so that it is visible actually to the other vehicle, so that see, oh, this car is towing this car. They will slow down their speed and will give you some space. So What must you remember when towing? Motorcyclists may only be towed with a fixed. No, just remember you can never tow a motorcycle. Never. So this option is anyhow wrong. Tow rope, your 2 bar must be clearly marked. As I told you, this rope or this tow, if you're towing, this should be clearly marked with this sign so that other vehicle can see it. The distance between the vehicle must not exceed 5 meter. This we have discussed. So both these options are correct. The first was wrong anyhow. Your car has a fault and can no longer be driven. But what must you be aware of during towing? So your car is not like has a fault and a car can no longer be driven. So what must you be aware of? What should things you should keep in mind during towing? A towing bar should be used where possible for sure. The rear fog lights also be switched on to indicate the towing procedure. No, you only need to switch on your hazard warning lights. No, nothing to take with the rear fog light. This rear fog lights we turn on some other time when there is a very less visibility. It has nothing to take with towing. The force required to operate the brake pedal is significantly greater if the engine has failed. Like if the engine has failed, then if the engine is completely failed, then if you want to have some braking effect, you have to brake very hard, then you can get the minimum braking effect. If the engine is completely failed, the force required to operate the brake pedal is significantly greater. In that case, you have to also need keep in this mind if you want to have some braking effect. With the very high pressure you brake, then only slightly you will get the braking effect. But anyhow, rear fog light you should never switch on in this case. Your car has a fault and can no longer be driven. What must you be aware of during towing? During towing, the hazard light must be switched on both vehicles. Like this, I have told you. Hazard lights. It is a third use of hazard light. Like when your car is broken down, when you are facing a traffic congestion or traffic jam, when you are towing your car. In those cases, you have to switch on the hazard warning light. The towing cable should be kept as taut as possible. Yeah, like it should be as taut as possible. So like it's not like this, it's a very long rope, let's say this bar, and let's say then you could not maintain a distance of 5 meter. You have to maintain a distance of 5 meter, could be lesser, but maximum maybe if this towing cable, let's say, or rope is greater than 5 meter, then your distance will be greater than 5 meter, which is not allowed during towing. So this option is anyhow correct, that you have to keep as taut as possible so that you should not exceed a distance of 5 meter. The motor may only be used to shorten the motorway may only be used to shorten the journey to the next garage. No, when you are towing your car, you should exit the motorway, if you were on the motorway, as soon as possible on the next exit. You are never allowed to be on the motorway while you are towing your car or somebody is towing your car. If you are already on the motorway, not your fault, just take the next exit. Otherwise, if you are entering a motorway, that's illegal. You are not allowed to use the motorway in that case. So let's move to the final question of this particular topic number 10. Your car has an engine fault and must be towed away with a tow rope. Okay, what must you be aware of? Driving license BE is the minimum required in order to tow a car. No, you only need driving license B, with which you can actually attach a trailer with your car, or you can tow a car with you. BE is, I think, till 7.5 ton, as I told you. With your class B license, B or class B, you are allowed to tow or to take a trailer with you till 3.5 ton. This we have seen already in previous videos. So it is not necessary that if you want to tow some car, you need class B. Class B license will work. A malfunctioning car with assisted steering is difficult to steer. Yes, a car is already broken, and as we know that this steering will be considerably heavier and will be heavy to steer. This we know. When towing an electrical vehicle, it is necessary to follow the manufacturer, because you know these electric vehicles have a different kind of procedure or different kind of technicalities as compared to the your normal diesel or let's say petrol cars, because their technology is different. Maybe while towing you could damage some part of the car. Let's say in the manual case you do not have any problem, but maybe with the electrical car you cannot. Let's say there are some limitations from the manufacturer. So to be very sure, when you are towing an electrical vehicle, just follow the manufacturer guidelines, with which speed actually you can tow, and while towing how much brake you should apply, everything. So these two options are correct. So friend, this was everything from topic number 10. I hope we have clarified your doubts, and if you have any query, any question, any feedback about topic number 10 or especially about the previous topics as well, you can put it in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, like our videos. If you want to support us, you can support us on Patreon as well with as low as $1. So until the next video, take care, happy learning, have a nice day, and bye.